President Trump has said the US will destroy an Iranian bridge or power plant anytime its forces attack, anytime Iran attacks a ship in the Strait of Hormuz. In a post on Truth Social today, the president said potential targets would include ones located next to or in the capital, Tehran. President Trump has been speaking this evening at a school in Atlanta, Georgia.
We cannot let Iran have a nuclear weapon. It's very simple. So we're likewise winning in the Islamic Republic of Iran, and we're ensuring that they will never, ever be able to do to us what they've done to so many. You know, they've killed 52,000 plus protesters. People that were protesting have been killed. 52,000 over the last 4 months. Nobody wants to talk about the fake news back there, never mentions that.
Well, the president went on to speak about the recent deaths of 4 US service people in the Middle East.
I attended the dignified transfer ceremony for 4 great US service members killed in the conflict with Iran as they returned to American soil at Dover. One of the families happened to be traveling to Georgia. Beautiful family, beautiful wife and husband and brother-in-law. And I said, I'm going to Georgia too. Where are you going? She said, well, after this, sir, they lost their beautiful son. We're going to Georgia. I said, so if you want, I'll give you a ride on Air Force One. And they said, wow. Wow.
Well, that was the president speaking at a school in Atlanta, Georgia this evening. That's all the cheering you can hear. Let's talk to Cedric Leighton, former US colonel, former member of the Joint Staff of the Pentagon, who's now CNN's military analyst. Good evening to you, Cedric.
Good evening, Carole. Good to be with you.
Look, President Trump has said the US will destroy an Iranian bridge or power plant any time that Iranian forces attack a ship in the Strait of Hormuz. And we seem to be into this horrendous tit for tat. We've had, 11, 12 nights of strikes now. What is your assessment of what is going on there?
Well, right now, what we're seeing is this escalation is basically an escalatory ladder that both Iran and the United States are on. And there doesn't seem to be an off-ramp to any of this. There's no rung of the ladder that is going to get us off the current escalatory phase here. So what this means, I think, is that both sides are basically getting entrenched in their particular areas. They are, the Iranians know that they can exercise a degree of control over the Strait of Hormuz, and they want to continue to do that. The United States doesn't want that, and a lot of other countries around the world do not want that either. So we are in a situation where, at least at the moment, both sides appear to be intransigent. Now, I'm certain that there are things going on in the background where there's an effort, at least by the mediating countries like Pakistan, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, and Oman. There is activity there for certain, but how effective that will be really remains to be seen. And I think it would have to be said that the mediators are probably losing patience with both Iran and the United States at this point.
Yeah, I'm just seeing confirmation that the US is carrying out another night of attacks on Iranian targets. We know that Iran has also been carrying out various retaliatory strikes, most of them aimed at US interests in those nations around the Strait of Hormuz. Cedric, we have seen 4 US servicemen killed recently, and yet it seems that President Trump, rather than looking for a way out of this, if anything, is stepping up his threats. Is that being matched by an actual stepping up of the attacks?
So the volume of the attacks has actually increased to some extent in terms of the numbers of targets hit each night. So this would be the 12th night of attacks from U.S. Central Command. So Generally speaking, and it remains to be seen how they're conducting these attacks right now, but they've ramped up from around 30 or so targets per night all the way up to 140. So that right now is the threshold at the moment that we're at, but that could definitely increase, and especially if we're looking at infrastructure targets such as the bridges and power plants and other aspects of the infrastructure that President Trump has mentioned, it could very well increase beyond that. So this is the kind of thing that we're looking at. It seems to be conditional based on Iranian conduct and whether or not the Iranians actually attack a commercial vessel. But if they do, then the U.S. says, at least President Trump says, that we will attack a key infrastructure target in Iran.
We are supposedly still in this memorandum of understanding between the United States and Iran. It was supposed to allow for a 60-day ceasefire to allow for many of the very profound differences between the two sides to be resolved. We had the Iranian president yesterday saying that we were into an all-out war. It doesn't look as though we're quite into that yet. But where do you think this leaves that memorandum of understanding? I mean, is it even in existence? Is there any understanding between the two sides here?
I think understanding was lacking from the moment that they signed the document, Carole. Quite frankly, it's a shame because certainly there are differences in interpretation, differences in language that was used, and also a lack of clarity in the language. In terms of crafting the actual MOU, the memorandum of understanding. And as far as where we're at right now, with President Pezeshkian saying that we're in an all-out war, that Iran is in an all-out war, and President Trump saying that as far as he was concerned, the MOU was dead, I think we can safely conclude that the memorandum of understanding is in tatters. And I think it is, it would be difficult to revive it at this point in time, but it is certainly something that would need to be done in order to reach some kind of an off-ramp at this point.
And what is clear is that the Strait of Hormuz is effectively closed. No shipping company is going to want to take the risk of going through that waterway at the moment. That has a huge effect, has had a huge effect already on global energy prices. We're seeing global oil prices ratcheting up once again. I mean, this is having a severe effect in the United States, isn't it? And although President Trump has denied that he's in any way affected by all of this, that must surely be one of the factors as he weighs up his next move.
Yeah, it certainly is. And, clearly on the political side of things, he has to be thinking of that, although he has publicly said that it doesn't matter to him, which is interesting given that, he campaigned electorally for, a reduction in oil prices, energy independence, all of the kinds of things that would lead one to believe that he would want the free flow of oil and other goods and services through the Strait of Hormuz and through other areas. So if the Strait of Hormuz continues to be closed and the Bab el-Mandeb, the strait that leads into the Red Sea from the Indian Ocean, if that were to be closed or impacted with the Houthi proxies in Yemen, that would really not only send a bad signal, but it would definitely create major economic upheaval throughout the world. And within the United States, the price of petrol would definitely continue to rise, just as the price of oil, like Brent crude, as well as West Texas Intermediate. Both of those have seen market increases today, as you mentioned, on the market. So this is, definitely a point at which there is going to be some significant economic consequences if there is no change in direction diplomatically or militarily.
But when you've got the Iranian regime, which appears to be in no mood whatsoever to back down, despite the huge amount of damage that it's suffered to its forces. It has been managing to continue to carry out strikes on towards some of those US interests in nations around the Strait of Hormuz. And we are hearing that, for example, Israel is pushing President Trump to go in even harder and carry out even more destruction. I mean, the prospects for President Trump trying to find a way out of this, it's very difficult indeed to see that, isn't there?
It really is. It's hard to imagine. And, when you look at what Iran is seeing, yes, they have definitely been damaged. There is destruction of, many of the installations, the government installations throughout the country, especially along the southern coast. But what they also see is, yes, we are experiencing a lot of damage, and many of our people have been killed. But the other thing that we're gaining here, we as in Iran, is gaining a strategic advantage that they never really exercised before, and that at least not to this extent. And the fact that they are exercising this strategic advantage by closing or threatening to close the Strait of Hormuz, that gives them a feeling of power regardless of the damage that they've suffered. And we have to remember, of course, their main idea is to conduct asymmetric warfare, where some of the normal equations of force disposition, number of ships, number of airplanes, those kinds of things don't matter as much to them as they would to a more conventional power.
Cedric Leighton, former US colonel and member of the Joint Staff for the Pentagon, now CNN's military analyst. Really good to get your insight. Thank you so much for joining us.
You bet, Carole. Thanks so much for having me.